All right, welcome to Magic in the Ordinary. Today, it is my joy and privilege to welcome a speaker, human resources professional, and a lovely friend of mine, Mindy Dann. Mindy, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's so fun. We just met a few months ago in Naples, and here we are on a
Yes,
podcast, on your podcast.
it is so wild and so exciting. So,
Yes, so fun.
can we start by what is your backstory?
Oh, wow. My backstory is I am from Nebraska. Was born in Lincoln, raised in Elkhorn, a suburb of Omaha. I'm a human resources director by trade, and I work in the hospitality industry. And so I've moved all over the place. I've lived in Sioux City, Iowa, Norman, Oklahoma, Joplin, Missouri, Neosho, Missouri, Peoria, Illinois. I feel like I'm missing one. Denver, Colorado, Reno, Nevada for like a hot second, and then the Lord kind of brought me back to Nebraska about a mile and a half from where I grew up in 2019. And thank goodness He did, because COVID sort of happened right after that, and everything went bonkers. So I was glad to be home, and I've been here ever since 2019.
Oh my goodness. Well, you've seen the whole country.
I have a lot of it, a lot of the Midwest and a little bit out west. But yeah, and I guess part of my story also is I became a believer in Jesus when I was 19 at a retreat with my church youth group, and I was 19 years old. Um, but more recently, in the last few years, it's kind of the topic we're going to be talking about is our value. And I started to realize that I didn't really know my value, and I really didn't know my true identity. I just kind of been watching other people who I respected live their life as a believer, as a Christian. And after kind of getting a revelation that I needed to know who I was and that God cared and valued me separate from all those people, um, that's part of my backstory as well. So,
Oh, I love that.
yeah, and I attended church. There's so many, I mean, Omaha is like just saturated with so many spirit-filled, amazing churches. And I have friends that go to lots of different places. The fellowship I'm a part of right now is called Love Church, because really all it is love, right? And it's all about how God loves us and how we can love each other supernaturally when when we're in right relationship with the Lord. And so yeah, so that's just kind of me. I've got a mom and a brother and a sister, and then I've got a dog. She's a boxer, and her name is Lieutenant. My last name's Dan, so Lieutenant Dan
Oh
seems to be the
my gosh.
proper the proper name for my dog, and I call her Lulu lovingly for short. So
Oh, cute. I have enjoyed watching Instagram stories of
ah,
little Lieutenant Dan.
she's yeah, she's in a contest right now, and she hit the top 20. So
Woohoo!
that's exciting. Yeah, people can go vote for her.
Vote for Lieutenant Dan. I
That's
love
right. That's
that.
right.
What was a moment of major transformation for you, and how did that come about?
I would say about 3 years ago, there's my ums again. About 3 years ago, I was in a really dark place. I kind of learned how to live as a Christian, but I wasn't really experiencing what it means to be a Christian. And what I mean by that is it's part of being sanctified, right? Like you surrender your life to the Lord, and then the rest of your life is this like sanctification process where you're just kind of discovering who you are, who God is, and who and how you fit in the world. And I lost sight of who I was, and started to use alcohol as a form of kind of not coping, or as I guess a form of coping. And it's kind of cliche at this point, but during COVID in April of 2020, my mom had a heart attack, and she's fine today. But then we couldn't be with her in the hospital because of the COVID restrictions. And so it was very scary. She had to have open heart surgery. And the fact that my elderly father just dropped her off at the emergency room and then had to leave and just text us kids, it was something broke in me. And I remember the moment I was driving away from my parents' house, not knowing, and I was talking to one of my best friends on the phone. And I remember something in me broke. And um, I didn't really know how to deal with that. And so I didn't really even see it coming, but I started to kind of numb myself with a drink after work or here and there. And then before I knew it, it had overtaken my life. And so after a particularly destructive weekend at home, my family came in and found me, and I ended up going in to get some help at a I don't know if rehabilitation is the right word, but I was there for 3 days, and I was able to, through a series of decisions and humbling myself, get some help through Alcoholics Anonymous or whatever, and um, really just I just really stepped into the pain, and I entered into the pain. And at Love, where I am attending church, there was just this moment. It was a message that our pastor was preaching, and he was talking about Jonah and really being on the right path, and how Jonah tried to run from his calling, and God still got him. And whatever, I don't remember specifically what it was that he said, but I just knew I had to go to the front, because he was calling people up if they wanted to get saved, right, or give their lives to Jesus, surrender. But he was also called out people who kind of wanted to get back into it. And yeah, after almost 30 years of believing in God, I actually feel like I fully submitted and surrendered to him. And it'll be 2 years, January 29th this year. It'll be 2 years since I've had a drink of alcohol. So
Praise the
it's a
Lord.
miracle. And you would never, there were times where I was just like, I'm never going to be able to get over this. It's just going to, part of who I am, and I'm going to die, blah, blah, blah. And I had no hope. But, there were people in my life who loved me, that were praying for me. And God never stopped coming after me. He never stops pursuing us. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I think you mentioned it's almost cliche with the 2020, post-trauma thing, but I mean, I think it's more like relatable to a lot of people. Like, it
Yeah.
was a hard year for people, and I don't know. I think it's really beautiful seeing how that led to a moment of transformation for you, and it wasn't the end of the story. It was.
Absolutely. And make no mistake, I mean, pain is still hard to deal with. And it's easy to get lost on like social media, or to get lost in television or anything.
Mhm.
Even things that are good, like, hobbies or whatever. But like, if I don't deal with painful things, or reconcile with things that have happened in my past or whatever, and process through even forgiving people, it's like,
Wow.
if we don't really accept the invitation into that suffering, because Jesus understands our suffering. So he invites us to fellowship with him in his suffering, and with our own. Um, and man, oh man, there's such grace and beauty in it and through it. And
Wow.
I'm experiencing it every day. Every day
Wow.
there's an opportunity.
It's a scary invitation to get. Like, come pick
It
up my
is.
cross and
It,
understand yourself better and don't run from it. I think that's a bit of a scary invitation, but that's beautiful. Realizing there's grace there. There's so much beauty there, and there's so much goodness.
so much, so much.
Wow.
Yeah.
Um, so today, like you said, I really want to focus in on value, and I wanted to start by asking what can obscure our understanding of our own value, or maybe what makes it harder to remember.
So it's so interesting that this is happening today, because I know we had scheduled this a couple weeks ago, and I had to reschedule or whatever happened, and here we are today. And I'm actually sitting in a season of what I'm calling unrest, because I just feel like God is calling me into some new things. This being one of them, and I I am I am a confessed people pleaser, and that's a really hard life to live if you are constantly worrying about what everybody thinks, or having fear of man, or all of that. So the fact that we're talking about that you're coming to me as someone who might be able to explain value, I sometimes am like, oh my gosh, why would I be talking about this? I struggle with it all of the time. But I think that does make me an expert, because I struggle with it all the time. So I think the first thing that keeps us from understanding our value or getting distracted from it is comparison. When we compare ourselves,
Mhm.
let's say I make a bad decision at work, and I get kind of reprimanded for it. Well, then I'm like, oh gosh, nobody else is going through this, or, you know, somebody gets married before I do, or, you know, I am actually divorced. And so, you know, it's easy to compare. I have friends, amazing couples that have gone through the fire. They've gone through terrible trials and they've made it through, but I couldn't make it work. And that comparison just really can distract us from what God has for us. And it even talks about in Galatians, and I wrote it down, 1:10, for am I now seeking the approval of man or God? So um, yeah. Comparison shifts the value from who someone is to how they rank. And the fact is we're all God's favorite. One of my mentors, Ty Shenzel, used to say, I am God's favorite. Not really, but I am, you know, or I can't remember exactly how he would say it, but and we're all the apple of his eye. We were all created in his image, and so we are his favorite. Another thing that can keep us from understanding our value is fear and insecurity. um, you know, and that kind of can come out of comparison. Like, you know, getting divorced in my 40s, there it's like, oh gosh, is anyone ever going to love me this side of heaven, or is anyone ever going to love me again? And being insecure in that, and it's like, you know, I don't even know why I just brought that up, but it's when we have fear, when we have insecurity and we focus on that, it's like we're trying to protect our own sense of worth by, you know, I don't know, undervaluing ourselves, which honestly, it's just another form of pride. Pride is thinking too highly of yourself, it's thinking too lowly of yourself. Matter of fact, it's just thinking of yourself too much, whether it's good or bad. um, Another thing, and if I'm going too fast, you just stop me.
No, this is great.
Another thing I think that can help us, or that can distract us from our value, is past wounds and labels. Um, Whether it's a mom wound or a dad wound or a teacher wound or a boyfriend or a girlfriend wound, a spouse wound, I mean, a pastor wound. I mean, my goodness, we're all just imperfect human beings bumping into each other through this life. And um, things that can be negative words that are spoken over us, whether it's family, authority figures, or even the culture, it can linger. And oh my goodness, I mean, don't even get me started on social media. You know, I talk to, you know, my friends and I will talk all the time, not all the time, but when we do talk about social media, it's like, I don't know how kids these days are making it, because I was an insecure kid and I don't know what I would have done if the whole internet would have been available to bully me or, you know,
Yeah.
speak words, negative words over me. So yeah, past wounds and labels can really, you know, a lot of people, you can remember something negative that someone said to you. I remember, this is so bizarre, but in second grade, we had to draw a picture about a book. And I drew a picture and I was so proud of it. It was a cat on a rock. I couldn't tell you what book it was about, but I was really proud of it. And my teacher tore it into and threw it away. I can't remember her name. I remember what she looks like. And I remember being so excited to show her and then being so like distraught and being like, I don't know what just happened, but you know, I don't think I ever drew anything.
Oh my gosh, that's horrible.
I was in second grade. It's like 40 years ago, you know?
Oh my
So yes,
gosh.
past wounds and labels.
Oh my gosh. As a teacher, that like kind of shatters my heart a little bit. Like I'm
Oh,
just like, how could you do that? Like,
well, and here's the thing. That was my perception. It could have been something completely, I don't know, but all I know is that she tore it up and it shattered me. You know, it was really, really bad. Oh no. And it wasn't, and see, I'm a liar. It was actually fourth grade. I was just like,
really young.
I was like, I know my second grade teacher. She didn't do that. It was my fourth grade anyway. Oh,
So young.
oh boy. Already kind of talked about it, but pride and self-focus, just basically focusing too much on yourself and not on the Lord. Um, uh, that can be really destructive. And then culture and definitions of worth. I mean, society often defines value by productivity, wealth, influence, or usefulness. This can cause us to overlook those who don't fit those metrics and to feel worthless or like they don't matter. And I really believe that my industry has trained me and taught me that every person has value, every person has worth.
Mm,
So in hotels, right? Hotels, we have the general managers, the executives, the executive committee, all of the sales directors and HR directors, and all of us, VIPs, if you will. And then, but in order to have a successful hotel, you need people to check people in. You need people to um, clean the bathrooms every single day.
yeah.
You need people to wash dishes every single day. So when I'm hiring people, interviewing people, um, you can kind of tell people will have that little look in their eye like I'm just a housekeeper. And I'm like, no, no, no. Make no mistake. If we don't have excellent housekeeping teams that keep this place clean, then we don't have a hotel. I don't have a job. So I need you.
Wow.
And my value, we all have the same value. And the way if you'll indulge me, the way I like to explain it to people is, the relay races in the Olympics where they pass the baton and the first, like, you need strong people in every spot, right? For every leg. The first one you want to get out of the gate. So that's our sales team and our executive committee. Our sales team goes out, they meet people. Like, think about where the resort we were at in Naples, okay?
Yeah.
They met with the Sparavita leaders, and they had us, we signed a contract. So they got the money, uh, and then what happens is the sales department, they run their race, they get the contract signed, they get the money, the revenue, and then they pass that baton on to the other leaders. The chef needs to know how much food to order for the group, and the front desk needs to know how many keys to make for the people that are coming in. So
Mm,
they pass, and then they pass the baton on to the people that are going to work that event, the people that set up your table that you were at, and the people that got the rooms together, moved the chairs precisely where they were supposed to go. And while the event's happening, they're running their lap. And then that final lap that determines whether or not we're going to win the race, they pass that baton on to housekeeping and the stewards to do the dishes and to clean up afterwards. And the banquet setup team, they tear everything down and get ready for the next one. Um, and that determines whether we win. So if the baton gets dropped in any of those legs, then everybody suffers. Everybody takes a hit. And so, yeah, I do care about the plates getting clean, and I do care about the toilets getting scrubbed, because not because I have to do it to be successful, but I have to ensure that the people that are doing it understand their value and their worth.
wow. I
So, but those cultural definitions could be like, I have friends, I get my nails done, like, I don't know, 6 times a year. Every other month I go in, and I see people getting their feet worked on and things like that. And some people feel guilty, like, oh, this woman is doing this. Well, she's making her living. Why would we feel sorry for her? If that's what she wants to be doing and that's what she's really good at, because I'm not good at that. I'd probably cut people's toes off. I wouldn't know what I was doing. I try. They're taking care of us, and that's the job that they are choosing to be doing. And I know I might have rose-colored glasses on, but you know, um, there's jobs for everybody, and every one of those jobs holds value.
I love that. Actually, I mean, you brought up the example of Naples, that resort in Naples, and that was actually a moment that really hit me of my stay there was so nice because of those, the people who the housekeepers, the cleaners who came through and they were just so kind. That's what
Yeah.
stuck with me. I was like, that was one of my favorite parts of the weekend, is just realizing these people are so kind and they seem happy to be here. And
Hmm.
this is we had some good conversations, and that really hit me of, I don't know. Sometimes I think I like to think the little things are the big things. And if you feel like there's a task that's a small task, like, oh, I'm just making the beds. It's like, no, that's huge. Like, you actually made me feel welcome. You made me feel at home. And for me, that was like one of the lingering memories. And that wasn't a small thing for me. That was like, I don't know, in my head, that was a big thing. And I never met the CEO. So in some ways, like, the big things didn't even really register with me. They didn't really, they never
Yeah.
really connected with me. So I don't know. I think that's a beautiful example and kind of illustration of just how important every piece of the puzzle is and just how valuable every piece of the puzzle is.
It's so true. It's so, so true. And really quick, I have just two more that kind of can
Yeah.
keep us from understanding our value. And one of I titled it Unexamined Assumptions and Bias. And what I mean by that is stereotypes, assumptions, and just snap judgments that prevent us from truly seeing others as individuals that are made in God's image. And 1 Samuel 16:7 says, the Lord sees not as man sees. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. And I also, if any of my friends listen to this that know me well, they will probably start laughing out loud at this moment. But I used to be the worst driver. Like, if you offended me on the road, I would be like, "What's your problem?" And I can't believe you. And I have had a change. I've had a change. Um, uh, that the person cutting me off might be on their way to the hospital. The person who's driving like a maniac, maybe they're a jerk. I don't know. Maybe they're on their way. They're trying to get to work because they are going to get fired if they're late this one last time, and they just really need to get there. It doesn't make it okay how they're behaving. It is dangerous, but I don't need to add to their stress by being a jerk or flipping the bird. Not that I would do that anymore, but but you know what I mean? Sometimes it's so natural to just be like, you cut me off. And honestly, on the way to work, this last Monday, I was driving and I was getting to a stoplight and it was turning yellow. And I'm elderly now, so I start to slow down. I don't speed up at the yellows anymore. And the person behind me wasn't okay with that. And so they actually swerved around me and then went on a red light and just went in front of me and turned right. So it was dangerous. And had I we didn't I mean they didn't hit me, but I thought about that in the context of what I'm preparing for today. And I was just like, that's it. Like, I don't know where she's going. Maybe, I don't know. Again, doesn't excuse her behavior, but it doesn't diminish her value either. And it doesn't diminish my value. She didn't appreciate that I stopped. It doesn't diminish my value. But that's what I mean. Like, these stereotypes, and we just make these snap judgments that, like, oh, if you have this picture up on your Facebook wall or whatever, then you're obviously X, Y, and Z. And so your worth is diminished. And we just see that all over social media right now. And it's just not true. Um, and then the last one that I had is just sort of distance from the truth. And what I mean by that is just when we're disconnected from the truth of who God says we are, or unwilling to just have honest self-reflection, false narratives can easily take root. And when that happens, it can come out of us in a way that you may not even recognize yourself. And interestingly enough, our church leadership invited us to consider fasting for 7 days at the beginning of the year. And I chose to fast social media. It's over now. And I found time, I found energy, I not being just immersed in just the yuckiness of the world. I don't think we were meant to be exposed to everything that social media throws at us. And so I think that there are also great things about social media. I think that everything that exists was created by God. And so I think a lot of positive things can come out of social media, but there's right now a lot of negative things. And I personally need to be careful with that. Um, but the bottom line is, Jacqueline, is that value is not earned or achieved or revocable. It is given, and it's given to us by God Himself, and nobody can take it away if we don't let them. If we choose to believe what God says about us, then nobody can take it away.
Wow. There's so much to unpack there. It's like there's so many beautiful things.
I
Even
know it's a lot.
yeah, and I just as I'm hearing you talk, there's so many things that attack our value in this world today. Like we're talking about social media, and it is this comparison trap of I mean, I remember going on social media and being really ready for like people would say, "Oh, you'll see other, beautiful people like magazine covers, and your self-esteem will drop." And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna see them, and I'm not gonna let that happen." And then I remember I was like making a smoothie one day, and I was like, "My smoothie's not as bright as everyone's on like all the influencers," and I was like, "I have smoothie envy." Like, how did this happen? Like, I just, I was like, it just comes from the weirdest places or the things that you just didn't see coming, and it's just such a weird world of comparison, and there's so many things like that which it can attack the value, and we just, I mean, sometimes I don't see it coming, and I'm surprised by all of these different things that are trying to tell people who they are or where they
Yeah,
stand, and it's just not true. Like, it's just, it doesn't hold weight, and it's hard to remember that sometimes. So
absolutely. Yeah, your smoothie was probably perfect.
after that I started getting ads on Instagram of like, here's red dyes that you can put in your strawberry smoothies. And I was like, I'm so done right now. I did not buy any.
There's a guy on Instagram. His handle, I think, is Chef Reactions, and he's really funny. He cusses a lot, but he's really fun. And he just watches other creators content, and then he'll just be like, that's not like, this one girl was making, or this lady was making like lemon dough, and she was like she did flour, and then she just squeezed a bunch of lemons into the middle of the flour, all this lemon juice, and then she's kneading it, and then like it kind of cuts and comes back, and it's like really really deep yellow. He's like, that's not just lemon juice, and I'm just like, she did something to that dough. And I'm like, it's all a facade. And if we could really like pull back the curtain, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
put our best selves out on social media, and I've got a couple of friends who are content creators, and they'll be like, this is what I show you, and this is how we got there. And then it's just like the madness behind it. And so um I appreciate that when creators do that, because it's not perfect. It just can't be.
We're all human. I like that you said that too. Of the world is filled with just imperfect human beings, and so sometimes we hurt each other, and that, yeah, we're all imperfect. And I think on social media we almost have this shot at trying to look perfect, and that can be just detrimental because it's kind of, it's a lie in some ways. Like, you want to put your best foot forward if you're posting like a product photo or something like that, but it's there it can be misused as well. Like, so it's just interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and misunderstood, especially by
Yeah.
young people who their brains aren't even fully formed yet, and they're seeing all this stuff and thinking this is what I need to live right, and
Yeah.
it's just false.
Mm.
So, yeah,
So how, or what advice would you have for someone who doesn't feel their value or doesn't understand their value?
I would say that feelings are not facts.
Ooh.
Feelings are um, one of the best. I know it. I don't know who was the original person behind this thought, but my friend Deb shared this visual with me several years ago, probably several decades ago, that if we think about a train, the engine is the
Mm.
truth, right? The truth always goes first. Our feelings are the caboose, the end of the train. And
Mm.
our feelings will eventually catch up where the truth has been. Our feelings will get there, but it just might take a minute. And I find comfort in that. And, the truth is the truth, not my truth, not your truth, the truth. And when I say that, I'm talking about the word of God and what God says and who God says I am and who God says you are. That's the truth. And so when we focus on that, when we meditate on that, when we soak in that, memorize that, just things like, oh gosh, one of the best ones, one of my favorites is Psalm 139, 13 and 14, which is, for you created me in my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. That's the truth.
Love
And
that.
so when I'm feeling insecure, when I'm feeling like my double chin is showing up on your podcast, I remind myself I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I was knit together by God. And so
Mm.
that determines my value, not my appearance on a podcast.
Mm.
What was I feel like I totally messed up the question. I'm sorry.
Well, if someone doesn't feel like they have value,
Oh, yeah.
that's
Yeah, reminding yourself of who God says you are. And it's not going to your best friends to get them to give you confidence. It's not, getting a bunch of likes on a picture on social media.
mm,
It's getting in your war room, which I call my war room is when I get alone with the Lord and just spend time with him. And I wish I spent more time in my war room, but that's where you war for your soul. And
mm,
that might sound like, oh, very dramatic, but it is dramatic because there are people walking around, you walk by them every day and they hate themselves
mm,
because they don't know their value. And so I feel like once you understand your value, and I'm 52 years old and I don't always understand my value. I have to be reminded. I have to purposefully and intentionally spend time with God reminding myself who I am. And it's not easy. And I get offended and I get hurt and people don't do what I want all the time, what I want them to do all the time. They don't value me like I want them to all the time. And that needs forgiveness. And there's a whole nother road we could go down with that, maybe another time. But forgiveness is really important because when you forgive somebody, you're not excusing what they did.
mm.
You are simply letting them off your hook and putting them on God's hook, saying, I was wronged and it's not okay. And maybe there needs to be a boundary and maybe there can't be a relationship anymore, depending on the severity of it or what it was.
Mm,
But when you forgive somebody, really forgive them, you are not,
mm.
again, saying that it's okay. You're just saying, I am not going to continue to let this define who I am or to define who you are, because you were also created by the Lord and together in your mother's womb, and you have the same value I do.
Wow.
It doesn't mean that we have to be in a relationship or that I
Mm.
am okay with what you did. But imagine, you know, anything can be forgiven if you think about it, and that's wild.
Yeah, it is. But it's so comforting too, because I think, yeah, there's this sense of like there's evil in the world, but like I'm not exempt from flaws myself. So knowing that, yeah, it can be hard to forgive, especially when people have done stuff that's, really serious. So like you're saying, like
Yeah.
revenge spending or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But just like seeing like that's forgivable and so am I. And that's really comforting. And I heard it once like poison, like hate is like a poison that you're drinking yourself that you're hoping will kill the other person. And
Truly.
forgiveness is like letting go of the poison because you know you're worth it and you don't need to hold that. And I that kind of that mentality helps me understand like forgiveness isn't passive. It's a honoring, like it's a taking care of yourself and loving the other person and yourself in a really beautiful way.
It truly is. And, there's a ministry I'm a part of here in Omaha called Fresh Start, and it's like a 6-step process in unforgiveness, from going from unforgiveness to forgiveness.
Wow.
And we talk about the gap, right? Like there's God's design. Well, there's God's design for your life, and then there's reality, and then
Mhm.
where the gap is where hurt, loss, offense can happen. And once you recognize that and you know choose to accept the invitation again into the suffering, into the pain, and even get to a point where you can give sacrificial thanks for things. Oof, the freedom is it's like a chef's kiss. It's amazing.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
Thank you. It's not, I am so, I feel so fortunate and blessed, and to be surrounded by so many people who are much wiser than I am and who have put together these programs and these steps and verses and just ways and these paths to freedom.
Mm,
It's amazing. I feel very, like I said, very blessed.
it's a gift.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
completely.
So if we have people around us who don't understand our value, do you have any you want to speak to that? Like how can we help them or what's the best course of action?
I mean, honestly, the best course of action truly is taking care of yourself so that when you are going out in the world, you're not, because whatever we take in, we put out, right? So if we're
Mm,
taking in like just lies and garbage and just fear based things on social media or even the entertainment that we watch or the music that we listen to. And again, I'm not here to judge or whatever, but I'm just like, I find that when I start my day with praise and worship, or when I listen to a sermon or something, or just something that reminds me who I am, then I kind of tend to put out a different vibe, I guess, in the world.
I
And
like that.
so, I think just reminding myself that, you know, again, we're just a bunch of imperfect people bumping into each other through life. And I try not to put my own expectations of myself onto other people.
Mm,
Um, and so I don't know if I have a ton of good advice about that, but I mean, I work in a space where there aren't that many Christians, I suppose, and I I just choose to believe the best about whoever's in front of me,
mm,
and and in my work, I do have to have a lot of difficult conversations with people about their behavior or about their decisions and the consequences for that. So I think, you know, the fact that I can speak value to someone as I'm firing them from their job. I mean, if someone steals from the business and I don't see it as I'm firing them, I see it as I am responding to their behavior and their choices. And in that, because of this decision they made,
mm,
I am now forced to make a decision to follow policy and have integrity. And our policy says if you steal, you can't work here anymore. So, and I try to, it depends. It can be emotional too, but I try to talk to the person very openly and say, this doesn't define who you are as a person. This doesn't define
wow.
you for the rest of your life. It simply defines your ability to work at this location. Like you will get another job and you have the option and opportunity to learn from this and to not do it again
Mm,
because you're great. You are talented. We hired you for a reason. you've
mm,
just you've just created a scenario where now you can't work here anymore, and it's my job to make sure you understand that. But do better. Like you'll find another job. And I say that to people, and I get, told, F you, you don't care about me, and, whatever. Or I have gotten hugs before as I've ended people's employment. So you
wow.
know, it just depends. But I think if you know who you are and you can have confidence in who you are, um, it's easier to speak value to other people.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of where I land on that.
I think that's good. I mean, it's kind of to sum it up, it's like start with the man in the mirror, which I think isn't always the most fun, but it is the best course of action oftentimes. Like how do you want to make the world a better place? And it's like
Yeah.
you can start by taking action steps to, maybe better understand your own value or whatever it is. Like I feel like starting with that one person you really can impact right away yourself often it has this ripple effect that isn't
Yeah.
always expected, but it's really beautiful to see, if you put up boundaries or whatever it is to help, like you understand your own value and you start to act on that. It is beautiful to see how hopefully that can impact everyone around you, and they will understand,
Yeah,
be able to see
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, and it's even, being brave and standing up for yourself and um
Mm-hmm.
not accepting, bad behavior or people treating you poorly. It's like you can say, I am worth more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I expect to be treated better. Um
Mm-hmm.
and it's funny because I'm the HR director and sometimes it's the hardest for me to do. Because I don't want to disappoint anybody or I don't want to upset anybody, but I upset people every day.
It's so hard. It's so hard. I can't imagine that as a people pleaser and being like, you're like, or you want to make them happy, and then you're like, this is not how your day is going to be
But
happy.
it's wild because it's not a kindness and niceness often get conflated.
Yeah.
Just being nice is saying what I think you need, what I think you want to hear. I'll just say it so you go away, and it might not be true, but to be kind
Mm,
is to dive in and say, no, this isn't okay. Um, and I know that you're capable of treating me better. You're just choosing not to. And so I'm going to give you another chance to maybe rephrase that, what you just said, because I don't know if you were trying to be hurtful, but that's what it was. And if you're trying to be helpful, I'm going to need you to, tone it down a little bit or, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. Kind, clarity is kind. To be unclear is to be unkind. I'm really speaking a lot of things that I hear from the pulpit. So shout out to the Love Church pastors.
I love that. It's been words of wisdom that have been absorbed and then
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. It's good.
Do you want to speak a little bit more to pride versus confidence in the middle of all this?
Oh, sure. I would love to. This was another little deep dive that I had some fun going down. So I have a little chart in front of me that kind of just compare and contrast. So confidence shows trust in God. Pride is trusting yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, okay, I'm just going to read it down. So confidence trusts God, depends on God's strength,
Yeah.
walks in humility, is open to correction, produces gratitude, and glorifies God. Where pride trusts self, relies on personal ability, exalts the self, resists correction, produces boasting, and seeks personal glory. Um, you know, in Philippians 4:13, it says, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength, right? And then in Daniel 4:30, it says, look what I've done. look, look what I've done. And another Ty Shengel shout out, he was my youth pastor. He used to say about being prideful, here I am, you lucky people. Like he walking into a room and I'm like, aren't you lucky that I'm here? And, he would just make us laugh all of the time. And it's like, no, no, no. I can only do this because of Christ who strengthens me. It has nothing to do with me. I am incapable of anything worth any value on my own. And if I start to forget that, and I think that's where we get in trouble, is that
Mm.
we get a little clout or we get a little success, and then all of a sudden we're like,
Mhm.
oh, look at what I've done. I'm so amazing. And it's like, and God doesn't need, I mean, God doesn't need us to give him any glory. We get to give him glory. It's a privilege to worship
Mm.
him. We worship him because of what he's done, not because he makes us.
Mhm.
It's a gift to worship him and to give him glory. So confidence is being confident in who God made you. Pride is saying, look at what I did,
Mhm.
and not giving glory to God. And that's a really, really um, I think it can get blurry sometimes and we have to be careful. But I think God will humble us. But it can be pretty painful if we don't see it coming.
Yeah, that's true. I remember there's one sermon that was literally just a sentence. He's like, be humble or be humbled. And that was
Ooh,
it. And I was like, that was very memorable. I wrote
yeah,
the entire sermon in my journal.
yeah, honestly. And
That was,
and the bottom line is confidence is bold obedience with humility.
mm,
Pride is self-promotion without dependence on God. That's kind of where I
mm,
landed with both of them. So
mm.
yeah.
That's deep. Yeah, because you said something earlier that really struck me is that we were kind of talking about not feeling like you have a lot of worth. And you were like, pride is actually a piece of that. And I think it's almost counterintuitive just in terms of, oh, if I'm prideful, then I know I'm super great. But it's so interesting to me the more I live life and realize that pride comes with so much insecurity because it is looking inward. Like, I think I'm great. Am I? What does that make me great? Does that, and it's inward focused and it's kind of collapses. And then that confidence when you're actually looking outward, then there's this different worldview. Your world's bigger for one thing. You love everyone around you and you're seeing everyone around you. And there's just a different stance within that. And I think you said gratitude is a sign of confidence. And that I think
Yeah.
is such a beautiful rubric of this gratitude, this outward look.
Yeah. And it's also just your posture. Are you going to position
Yeah.
yourself and posture yourself before the Lord to say, waking up in the morning and saying, what are we going to do today?
Mm.
what are you up to today, Lord? And how can I be of service, or how can I join you in that? And a lot of times I'll wake up and the first thing I do is think, what do I have to do? And oh my gosh, I don't want to do that. And da, 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 da. And I just want to always be mindful of those things. And make no mistake, I am not, these are great things that I loved, that I got to prepare for this, because it caused me to really spend a lot of time thinking about these things and just reminding myself,
Mhm.
and yeah, pride, and that fresh start process I was telling you about, that ministry, they talk a lot about pride. The one of the original creators of it, Pastor Stephen Peterson, has passed away. He passed away in 2020, but he would say, with a big smile on his face, he would say, pride is thinking too highly of yourself, and thinking too lowly of yourself. It's basically thinking too much of yourself. Making
Yeah.
it all about us instead of all about
Yeah.
Jesus. So, yeah.
Mm. Mm. That's so good. Okay, well, where can people find you if they want to connect with you, or what can they expect in the future? Yeah.
Oh, Jacqueline, so many things. Well, I mean, I'm on Instagram. My handle is, like, I think it's just Mindy_Dann, Dann. I don't have much of a platform at this point, but I did start a consulting uh, company last year, at the end of the year, Mindy Dann Consulting. MindyDannConsulting.com is my email address if anybody would like to reach out to me. I offer, I'm very grassroots. So if people hear about me on your podcast and mention your podcast, they would get in on I'm doing a lot of, like, pro bono things right now, because I'm just trying to find my footing, working on pricing and things like that. But basically, I offer human resources consulting to small businesses or nonprofits. Doesn't matter what sector you're in. I mean, everybody needs HR here and there, but I'm also finding a niche in, like, churches and things like that as well. So everybody needs HR, regardless of if you have, 10 employees or 500 employees or 5,000 employees. But yeah, so that's where I'm at now. I'm currently working on a book. It's my story. I actually, oh.
My lighting just fell. Okay. I was like, oh boy. All right. We're excited for the book. We're excited for the book.
Yes. It's a little bit of an autobiography, but and it's very, very much in the beginning stages of. I think it's going to be a collection of short stories about adoption. It's going to be about life, whether it's adoption. I'm an adoptee, so and also it's going to be some abortion stories, which can be painful, but there's so much life to be found in those stories, and yeah, so there's more to come, but it's a everything's a work in progress right now.
It is. Life's a journey.
It is,
Oh,
it
so we
is.
can look forward to a book. That's great. That's fantastic.
Yes. Can I share my favorite verse with you?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I have it tattooed. I have a butterfly on my shoulder, and I have Jeremiah 1:5 on there, which is, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I knew you, and appointed you as a prophet to the nations. And what I love about that is that every person who is ever created, um, it's like God saw, before we were in it together, He saw our journey, our whole journey in life,
Mm.
and as it relates to value, I can't think of anything more valuable than a human being at that stage of life. So I'll leave it at that. I love life. I love people. I know it is a very polarizing subject this day and age, but it's okay it's okay to like babies being born. It's okay. It's okay. And and it's a very nuanced. It can be very nuanced, but it's really not. Killing humans is wrong at any stage of life. And I do not hate anybody. I do not judge anybody. I have dear friends who have made really painful choices in their life, and there's life and there's healing after that. And it's not a death sentence for them.
Mhm.
However, yeah. So anyway, I won't go too deep into that with you right now because I know we're ending, but um, your life has meaning before any achievement, and your identity and calling come from God's design and not culture, performance, or timing. You just are valuable
Mm.
because God says so.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mindy, for sharing all your insights and your joy and your wisdom with us.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Maybe someday I'll have you on my podcast.
Woohoo!